A sixth grade teacher in Florida gave his students an anti-Muslim reading assignment. Now, this text describes Islam as monstrous and the Quran as ridiculous, immoral, and corrupting. Now, the school says that they have reprimanded teacher Mark Smythe, a religion and social studies teacher at Blessed Trinity Catholic School in Ocala, who gave students printouts of a 19th century Catholic text that refers to Islam as a monstrous mixture of faiths. It also calls the doctrines of the Prophet Muhammad ridiculous, immoral, and corrupting. So the assignment that he gave to his students was this excerpt from an 1853 text about Islam by priest Giovanni Bosco, okay? Now, the text is sort of like it goes back and forth between a father and a son. And the father explains how Jesus Christ is superior to the Prophet Muhammad, who degrades and dishonors human nature, and by placing all happiness in sensual pleasures, reduces man to the level of filthy animals.
Can we just pause there for a second? So wait, the problem with Islam is that it's too sexual? That's the first I'm hearing that. I mean, they had to go back to 1853 to find a guy who thought, I mean, those perverts in Islam, I mean, they will not stop showing all their women. So, and now, of course, the talking points are reversed. Right. Those terrible guys in Islam, all they do is cover up their women and subjugate them, etc. Guess what, guys? Sometimes it turns out that these things are socio-political, they're cultural, and they depend on who's winning, who's losing, who's in charge, and the time period. So if you wanted to go to a more contemporary Catholic doctrine, you would actually find out that all the recent popes actually preach that that we should have tolerance for Islam, we should get along, and there should be mutual understanding. But you didn't want to quote the popes, you wanted to selectively go back to 1853 so you could find a guy who hates Islam and makes up things like it is too sensual. Yeah.
No, I mean, so let me read a few more excerpts from this real quick, just so that you get the gravity of this. And then I want to comment on what you just said. So Muhammad is described as a charlatan, a villain, ignoramus, imposter, and false prophet, and who couldn't even write and propagate his religion not through miracles or persuasive words, but by military force. It says that the Quran, the holy book of Islam, is also called a series of errors, the most enormous ones being against morality and the worship of the true God. So I think you're right, Cenk, right? Because I do know that Catholicism and the popes have come out to support the religion of Islam. And so this is why this is so frustrating, because this is a religious teacher. So you would assume that he would be up on his religion and know that that is what we are talking about in this day and age. And especially when you have sort of impressionable young students. You could claim that he is teaching like this historical text from a priest. But that's really dangerous, right? Because it's important that we're teaching youth what our religion believes, right? Or what religion is about, if that's what his goal is at this Catholic school. But at the same time, like, don't teach that just because like somebody said it in history doesn't mean that you need to repeat it. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, and you need a full context. If you say, hey, this guy says that in 1853, but I actually look at the edict in 1965 by Pope John Paul VI, I believe, Pope Paul VI, says that we should treat Islam with esteem, and you give both sides of it. In fact, I'll be honest with you, my professor in college who taught Introduction to Islam, a wonderful Irish guy, but I don't think he gave proper context because he only showed it in a positive light. And I thought he should have also focused on the negative parts of Islam and the parts that aren't true, right? So look, to me, give full context. But if you do this hatchet job, you're doing it for a political purpose.
Absolutely, and I think he's well aware of, it seems that there's an agenda that kind of undergirds this lesson plan. I wanna know what the reprimanding was, why he wasn't removed. I just feel like this sets a tone for the classroom. And obviously it's made students uncomfortable, it's made the community uncomfortable. So I just wonder what the recourse is for these actions and how he's been punished or what,
Well, that's the statement. They said he's been reprimanded. I mean, that doesn't really do much, especially when you're already exposed this to these kids essentially. And the whole process of going through like a religion class is to learn about other religions and just like gain an understanding. And this isn't really giving them an understanding, it's showing them some real disgusting hatred and propaganda against a religion.
Yeah, so look, Catholic school gets to decide, it's a private school, what they want to do. But don't misunderstand the situation. Local religious leaders, from imams to rabbis to priests, have come out against teaching it this way, and they said that it's wrong, and it is actually against Catholic doctrine. So he's even teaching Catholic doctrine wrong. And then finally, just when you thought it was horrible as it is, there's extra parts in there that is not, quote, I read the actual text that he sent out. It's from 1853. Of course it's gonna have terrible parts, let alone all the things he said about Islam. And he said, referring to Muhammad, he couldn't even write it. And in composing his Quran, he was assisted by a Jew, right? And like, oh, just when you thought it was bad, right? And look, he says it's riddled with errors. Well, I would agree with that, right? But you want to look at the Bible? You want to look at the Old Testament? You want to look at the New Testament? We're going to have a conversation about errors. And so I don't think you want to open up that can of worms. And then finally, to that point, he says, you quoted monstrous mixture. Here's the rest of the quote. This is, that Muhammad's religion consists of a monstrous mixture of Judaism, paganism, and Christianity.
Do you know whose religion also incorporates Judaism?
And paganism, by the way. We just had Easter.
Hey.
Can you show me where the Easter bunny is in the Bible? I don't know if you know this, that and the eggs and the chocolate all come from paganism. So a mix of Judaism, Christianity, and paganism is the Bible. Our journalism drive is almost over. It ends in Trump's first 100 days. We need to hire more reporters and more watchdogs. Let's do that right now at tytnetwork.com/go.